Welcome back to the 3CIR podcast. I'm Joel Cairns, mates call me Slate, and I'm already side-eyeing the coffee I promised myself I wouldn't drink before we hit record. We'll see how that goes.
And I'm Ryan Delaney, Jury for short. He always says that about the coffee, and 5 minutes later, he's tactical sipping like it's an op.
Discipline is a spectrum, Ryan, but that is exactly why today's topic hits home. Before we dive in, quick reminder of who we are. 3CIR was founded by proud Australian Army veterans. That's our DNA. And everything we do is grounded in courage, commitment, camaraderie, integrity, and respect. Not just a slogan we paint on a wall, it's how we operate.
Yeah, we started 3CIR because we lived the jump from service to civilian life and we wanted people to have a smoother landing. Veterans, emergency services, civilians, if you're upskilling, switching gears, or you've got a truckload of experience you want recognised, this is your home. Recognition of prior learning, RPL, is our bread and butter, and online qualifications are the toolkit. And if you're just here for the motivation, hey, you're in the right platoon.
Speaking of motivation, today we're taking aim at a familiar enemy, procrastination, also known as cramming, also known as telling yourself I perform better under pressure while you scroll through dog videos.
Don't you talk about my dog videos like that? But yes, procrastination, the dessert after dinner of bad habits. It's inviting, it's sweet, and 5 minutes later, you're looking at the empty plate, wondering what happened to your evening.
We've all done it. You've got time on the clock, a task you can start early, and then boom, I'll do it later. Suddenly later is the deadline staring at you like a drill instructor, and you swear you've got your best ideas at 2 in the morning.
Right? You convince yourself the adrenaline makes you sharper, and it can feel true because pressure does push us into a certain zone, but here's the catch. It's a short-term fix. That cramming high doesn't build long-term memory, it just gets you through the immediate wall.
Exactly. And the science backs that up. There's this idea called the levels of processing. Fancy words, simple takeaway, the deeper you engage with material, the longer you remember it. So if you're just skimming or cramming, you're leaning on short-term memory. If you're really chewing it over, connecting ideas, teaching it back to yourself, you're building long-term recall.
When we were prepping for today, I was thinking about all the training cycles I've done. The stuff that stuck, not the night before cram on a SOP. It was the drills where we slowed it down, asked why, connected it to bigger patterns, ran it again under different conditions. That's deep processing. That's why you can recall it years later without blinking.
And if you're studying with 3CIR, that's the attitude we encourage. Whether you're going for a Cert V in WHS or diploma in leadership and management, it's not about ticking boxes, it's about owning the content so it's useful when it counts. By the way, we've got a stack of videos on leadership, HR, WHS, security, business, marketing, government, project management. Jump on YouTube and search 3CIR, you'll find them. Dip in for 5 minutes and you'll see exactly how we keep it practical.
Hang on, I want to stick with levels of processing for a second because this is where folks get tripped up. Deep doesn't mean slow. Deep means meaningful. You can do a 20-minute session of deep work and remember more than a 3-hour cram. If you attach the new info to something you already know, if you ask how or why, if you explain it to a mate or your dog, sorry, Joel, you're building those long-term hooks.
I will accept dog as audience. But you know what sabotages that? Cramming's evil twin, sleep deprivation. The other tax we pay when we put things off. If you're staying up late to smash an assignment, you're not just tired, you're skipping the very mechanism your brain uses to move things from short-term to long-term memory.
That's the consolidation phase, especially during the deeper stages of sleep. Your brain literally replays and files the day's learning. Miss that and you're expecting your head to be a whiteboard that doesn't erase. Spoiler, it erases. By morning, you've got smudges where the answers should be.
Studies recommend around 8 hours because those sleep cycles do jobs on schedule. Light sleep, deep sleep, REM. Each has a role, and it's not just about remembering facts. Sleep makes you better at judgment, emotional control, even risk assessment. If you're working in security or project management, you don't want those dials turned down.
I love the idea of treating sleep like part of your training plan. We used to plan workouts, meals, drills. Imagine planning your sleep with the same seriousness right after a learning session. Get the hours. That's like hitting save on your brain's hard drive.
That's not a suggestion, that's an order.
Easy there, staff. But look, let's be honest about why procrastination is so seductive. Immediate gratification, the little hits, finish one more episode, refresh socials, play a quick game that's definitely not quick. Your brain gets small rewards now instead of bigger ones later, and it thinks it's winning.
Yeah, the dopamine trick. The modern world is basically a casino of tiny wins, and even if you've got a tidy schedule, if you don't set up your environment and your habits, you'll naturally drift to those sweet distractions. It's human, not a moral failing.
So the goal isn't be a monk. The goal is to steer the rewards. I love temptation bundling. Pair something you crave with something you avoid. Only listen to your favorite playlist when you're reviewing notes. Only have the fancy coffee when you're doing an RPL evidence upload. Suddenly the task isn't the enemy.
Another one is time boxing. You put the task into the calendar like a meeting with yourself. When that slot starts, you start, and you end when it ends. The clock becomes the boss, not how you feel that minute. Add the 2-minute rule. If it takes less than 2 minutes to begin, start now. Open the document, name the file, write the first sentence. Momentum carries.
And people underestimate environment design. Phone goes in another room, tabs closed, notifications off. Have your notes ready from last time so you don't waste 10 minutes remembering where you left off. Put a sticky note at the end of each session that says, next step. You're future-proofing your next entry.
Speaking of future-proofing, that's not just a buzzword on our site. Building self-discipline now is one of the best ways to set yourself up for whatever comes next. You avoid procrastination and you train your brain to be consistent. That pays off in work, in study, in the way people trust you.
You can feel it too. There's a pride that comes from doing the thing when you said you would. That integrity piece. It's like reps in the gym. Small wins stack up, and then when big stress hits, new job, family stuff, deployment, transition, you're steady. You've already trained for this.
Let me put a pin in something you just said, because we're going to circle back later with a simple framework you can use this week to beat procrastination without becoming a robot. Stay tuned for that.
Oh, a teaser. Love it. But before we jump into frameworks, can we talk about the myth of I work best under pressure? Because a lot of veterans, first responders, even project managers say that with pride. And sure, we're good under pressure. We've been conditioned for it. That's different from needing pressure to perform.
Exactly. The key distinction is capacity versus dependence. You can handle pressure, but if you're constructing your life to rely on it, you're running on adrenaline, and guess what? Your body sends you the bill. Sleep debt, mood swings, worse decision making, and the product you deliver? Usually not your best. You just got lucky with the deadline buzz.
The funniest thing, when folks stop cramming, they often realize they're more creative. When you're not panicking, you explore, you connect dots, you think. That's deep processing, and it's not only for exams, it's for leadership decisions, for strategic planning, for how you run a team.
Which brings us to motivation, the slippery fish. Everyone asks, how do I stay motivated? Here's the hard truth. You don't. Motivation fluctuates. What you build instead is systems that work when motivation dips. Routines, triggers, accountability.
Amen. And make the work feel rewarding in the moment, not by running off to watch something shiny, but by celebrating meaningful milestones. Finished a section? Mark it done. Share a quick win with a mate. Tick the checkbox. Humans love progress. Visual proof keeps you moving.
I want to anchor this in 3CIR land for a minute. If you're doing RPL, one way to avoid procrastination is to treat evidence gathering like reconnaissance. You map your terrain, old roles, training certificates, incident reports, commendations, and you schedule short sorties to collect, label, and upload. Don't try to do it all in one night. 10 minutes of deep work beats an overwhelmed brain.
And if you don't know where to start, that's what our team is for. Hop on the free RPL assessment. It's at 3CIR.com under public RPL assessment form, and we'll tell you what qualifications your experience matches. Nothing motivates like clarity. You see the finish line. You walk toward it without the back and forth in your head.
Alright, let's get practical. Here's a simple 3-part plan to outsmart procrastination that we've road tested with students and in our own messy lives. Step 1. Make the first move stupidly easy. If you want to study, your goal is not finish a module. The goal is open the module and read one paragraph. Motion beats emotion.
Step 2, protect the time. Set a 25-minute timer. That's your focus block. When it's on, it's on. You can do anything for 25 minutes, right? When the timer ends, stand up, have a stretch, grab water, check your phone for 2 minutes if you must, then come back for another block if you got the gas.
Step 3. Close with a hook. Write down where you'll start next time. One line. Next step. Complete quiz 1, page 12. That way, there's no friction when you return. Your brain loves easy entrances.
And do this on repeat 3 times a week, not 7, 3. You're not trying to become a machine, you're trying to build a reliable drumbeat, consistency over intensity. After a couple of weeks, you'll have more done with less stress, and funny enough, you'll feel more motivated because success breeds motivation.
Now, I can hear someone saying, but my life is chaos, my shifts are erratic, I've got kids, I travel. Totally fair. The fix is flexibility with a plan. Choose a minimum standard for crazy weeks. Maybe it's 1 block, maybe it's 10 minutes of flashcards. The goal is don't break the chain. You keep the habit alive so you don't have to rebuild it from scratch.
And this is where sleep sneaks back in. If you only have 30 minutes at night, consider 20 for review and then wind down. If you push to midnight and cram, you'll forget 80% by Friday. Avoid the heroics. Get the hours, let the learning settle, then hit it again. You'll be amazed how much you remember after a good night.
Since you brought that up, let's talk quick about creating a sleep-friendly routine, because this is actionable. Darken the room, cut screens 30 minutes before bed if you can, cue a wind-down ritual. Doesn't have to be fancy. Note 3 things you learned, set tomorrow's intent, breathe slow for 60 seconds. You're telling your nervous system, stand down, mission complete.
And if all that feels like too much to overhaul, pick one lever, only one. Maybe you decide that every study session ends with setting the next step, or you bundle your learning with a mini reward like a good podcast afterwards. Hopefully this one. Start small, reps, build.
Let's kick around why we still procrastinate even when we know better. Fear is a big one. Fear of failing, fear of not being perfect, fear of wasting time. So we avoid the task to avoid the feeling. The counter move is to make failure safe. Draft ugly. Call it version 0. You can't edit what doesn't exist.
Perfectionism is sneaky. I'll start when I have the perfect plan, the perfect desk, the perfect quiet. Meanwhile, the clock's laughing. Give yourself permission to start messy. The plan clarifies as you move. Honestly, most of my best projects started with spaghetti notes.
And I made fun of them until I used them. True story. Another trap is overcommitment. You say yes to everything and suddenly you're triple booked, and the only place to steal time is from sleep or study. The fix is pre-commitment. If you've got focus blocks in your calendar, treat them as appointments. You have permission to say, I'm booked then.
Accountability helps too. Study with a friend. Tell your partner your schedule, or let us be your check-in. Message the team. Say, here's my plan this week. Honestly, the 3CIR crew loves that. We're not just a website. We're humans who remember what it feels like to juggle.
Since we're on juggling, let's talk about how to choose what to study first. When you're avoiding a thing, it often means the scope is fuzzy. Break it into pieces. Instead of learn project risk management, write identify 3 common risks in my current role and draft mitigation steps. Specific beats vague, then slide that into your block.
And relate it to your world. Deep processing is all about meaning. If you're in logistics, ask how does this apply to my supply routes? If you're in HR, connect it to last week's onboarding hiccup. If you're in security, map it to a recent incident. Learning sticks when it's woven into your story.
It's like those 3CIR videos. 5 minutes on leadership is useful, but 10 minutes where you pause and think about your team lead, why they handled a conflict well or badly, that's where it sinks in. I've had students tell me they watch a WHS clip and literally walk their workspace thinking, where would this go wrong? What is one change I can make today?
Speaking of today, let's hit a speed round of tiny actions that beat procrastination right now. Ready?
Fire.
Open the thing you've been avoiding and set a 2-minute timer. Do anything, even a title page.
Put your phone in another room before your focus block. Out of sight, out of mind is not a cliche, it's physics.
Write down your why. One line. Why does finishing this matter? Touch it before you start.
Tell someone you'll send them a proof of work by a certain time. Accountability is free and powerful.
Choose a reward that's aligned, not derailing. Study, then walk. Study, then call a mate. Not study, then 3 hours of TV.
And for the love of progress, track it. Even a checkbox on paper, your brain loves seeing momentum.
That's the thing. Momentum calms anxiety. The longer you avoid, the bigger the monster looks. You take one step and suddenly the monster's just a pile of emails.
Or a poorly named file. We see you, final version. One more thing I want to hit is the need to balance rewards so they motivate without hijacking the session. We mentioned temptation bundling. Another trick is delayed gratification tokens. Basically, you earn points for each focus block and trade them for a bigger treat on the weekend. It gamifies it without constant interruptions.
If someone told me at 20 I could bribe my future self with points for study, I would have had a much easier time at TAFE. But it works, and for those of you transitioning from military or emergency services, you already understand discipline in the field. Transferring it to study is about shrinking the battlefield, right-size the mission, win the day.
And give yourself respect along the way. There's that word again. Respect. We're big on it. Respect the effort, not just the outcomes. If you did your blocks and you learned something, that's a good day. You can't always control life, but you can control showing up.
I want to loop in RPL again because it's a procrastination antidote in its own right. If you've done the work in real life, don't start at zero. Recognition of prior learning lets you convert experience into nationally recognized qualifications. That cuts study time, reduces cost, and this is the procrastination bit, it gives you momentum. You're not slogging through content you already know. You're mapping and proving it.
And if the idea of paperwork makes you want to run for the hills, that's normal. You're not alone. Our assessors guide you through it. That's why the free RPL assessment exists. Plug in your experience at 3cir.com/public/RPL assessment form and we'll tell you what pathways fit. Clarity kills procrastination.
I'm smiling because I can hear the sigh of relief through the speakers. We've said a lot today. Let's do a quick debrief. So you've got the mission in your pocket. Procrastination feels good short term, but it steals sleep, memory, and quality. Deep processing beats cramming for long-term retention. Sleep isn't optional. It's part of learning. Immediate gratification is real, so structure your environment and rewards. Build systems, not fantasies. Start small. Keep the chain unbroken.
And don't forget the resources. We've got videos on leadership, HR, WHS, security, business, marketing, government, project management. They're bite-sized and practical. Hit them when you need a boost or to anchor a new topic. And use RPL if it fits your story. That's how you honor the work you've already done.
Before we wind down, you promised a simple framework earlier. Time to pay up.
Right, here it is. It's called AIM, Anchor, Invest, Maintain. Anchor, state your why and set the next step. 1 minute. Invest. Do a 25-minute deep focus block. Phone away, connect the material to your world. Maintain, end with a 1-sentence next step and schedule the next block. Repeat 3 times a week. That's it. Do that for 2 weeks and tell me your stress hasn't dropped.
I like that because it's human. Then it's not asking you to become a machine. It's inviting you to be consistent. And to tie it back to the 3CIR tenets, there's courage in showing up, commitment in sticking to the plan, camaraderie when you share the journey with others, integrity when you keep your word, and respect for your time and brain.
You make it sound easy.
It's simple, not easy, but we've got your back. And hey, if today you only do the anchor step, that's a win. Honestly, if you pause this and write your next step and why, you've already beaten procrastination for the day.
Last thought. If you're listening and thinking, I've been procrastinating on my career change for years, let that be your cue. Take 1 step. If RPL is the step, Hit the free RPL assessment at 3cir.com/public/RPL-assessment-form. If study is the step, pick a course page and read the overview. You don't need to climb the mountain tonight, you just need to face the right direction.
And if you're not sure which direction that is, talk to us. We've walked this path. We'll help you map it. You're not meant to do this alone, you know what I mean?
Exactly. All right, let's land this one. Next episode, we're doing a deep dive on learning about RPL, what it is, how it works, who it suits, what evidence looks like, and we'll walk through that free RPL assessment page so you know exactly what to expect and how to ace it.
If you've got questions about RPL, send them in. We'll weave them into the chat. Also, dip into those 3CIR videos this week: leadership, HR, WHS, security, all the good stuff, and try the AIM plan while you watch. 30 minutes, see how much better you feel after.
Thanks for hanging with us. Avoid the dessert of procrastination tonight, get some sleep, and let your brain do the filing.
And if you still end up watching dog videos, at least train the dog in project management. Kidding, mostly. Catch you next time for the RPL deep dive.